in my zone, bitch, I get my respect. Call me bumping Justin
when I'm coming. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Texas Sports World. We're your hosts. I'm Ethan. That's Isaac, and this is our guest Logan, who's going to join us from time to time. Shane, unfortunately, couldn't make it because we're going hella late tonight. But we have these things called day jobs, and sometimes they be taking a long time. Anyways, before we get started, how are you two doing today? Y'all doing all right?
Doing all right.
Just
okay. Work clothes.
Live, baby. We're live.
We're live in 5. Anyways, so we kind of have a little bit planned for this show today, but for the most part, we're flying by the seat of our butts, and we're gonna kind of, isn't that how it goes, Logan? Right? Flying by the
flying by the seats of our ass. Flying by the hair of our seats.
Flying by the hair of our chinny chin chin or something.
I don't think any of those are.
Yeah, look it up before I sound like an idiot. I mean, I've accomplished that on my own already, but
flying by the seat of my pants.
Flying by the seat of my pants. There we go.
Which still doesn't really make sense. But
not really, if you think about it. How are you flying by the seat of your pants? What does that even mean exactly? How do those words make any sense? Anyways, we're gonna kind of go through SEC Media Days a little bit. We're gonna listen to Steve Sarkisian talk. We're probably gonna get into some Kalen DeBoer as well for our fellow host Isaac, our Alabama homer here, and maybe we'll get into those two, and then maybe a little bit later we'll get into good old Texas A&M and see what they had to say. Now, if what are you laughing at already? Talking to you, man. Talking to you.
Who? Me or
you?
You was laughing. You.
Me? I was laughing?
You said
because he was laughing.
Why were you laughing?
He was laughing. And he was laughing because you said something different. This isn't gonna work. This can't work. We gotta figure this out quickly.
Elko. There we go. Mike Elko. Maybe we'll see what Mike Elko has to say. When Steve Sarkisian walked out to the podium for SEC Media Days, somehow they played the Aggie War hymn instead. And in true
I saw that. That's crazy. I can't believe it.
In true Steve Sarkisian fashion, he was unfazed. I wish he would have said something, been like, "Hey, man, wrong school."
Actually, hilarious. Whoever did that.
Yeah, I feel like that was definitely somebody did it on purpose for sure. Somebody had to 100% did that on purpose.
They just saw,
you can't mess that up. How do you not know who the coach
is? Texas A&M, and they just saw Texas.
Yeah, but it was a slideshow. That means they had it preloaded up before.
Hey, man. Sometimes you got to recognize.
You know what?
Sometimes you got to recognize.
Bull honky. Oh, and I want to get into some OU too. I feel like we got to get into, so they've got some weird stuff going on over there. But to kick this off, is there anything before we get into Steve Sarkisian and his press conference? Was there anything that y'all wanted to get into before we got into that?
Can we talk about how the Texas's recruiting class is shaping up these last couple of days?
I know. I whenever we got the two flips the other day, or the one flip, and the commit the other day, I texted Isaac because we got in this whole argument. I was like, "I see you," because he was talking shit. I was like, "I see you."
You were talking. I didn't say anything.
First of all, Isaac had the nerve to try to tell me that it's not very hard to go into Georgia and get a recruit, and I think that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts.
It's not nuts.
Well, it's not nuts because you're an Alabama fan and they've been good forever.
It's not nuts to go into Georgia and get a recruit. There's other states that are harder to pull recruits from than Georgia.
Okay.
Give players from Georgia that commit to other SEC schools.
Okay,
Louisiana's probably the hardest one.
I was about to say, give me your list of, like, from top to bottom, one being the hardest, 5 being the easiest of school.
I would say Louisiana's pretty hard to recruit from. I would argue Texas is pretty difficult to recruit out of, just because there's so many schools in Texas. Like A&M gets a lot of Texas guys, Tech, TCU, Baylor, all those guys, Texas State, they all get a lot of Texas guys. Y'all used to get a lot of Texas guys. Y'all kind of moved away from them.
We've kind of got a lot. We've gotten a lot more out of state recently. It's kind of weird.
So have we. But now we're getting back into it. I think this recruiting class, we've focused a lot of just recruiting in Alabama. I think 3 of our top 5 recruits are from Alabama. So I'd argue Texas is Alabama's getting back into state recruiting. But we also have a lot of guys from Georgia. Or we had a lot of guys from Georgia that were. I just don't think it's that hard to recruit from Georgia personally, because like there's not a lot of competition. So if Georgia's not showing a lot of interest, the next best thing is what, Georgia Tech.
Well, I think the South, like I think you could argue Mississippi, but it's not because of Ole Miss or Mississippi State.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, the problem is, well, not the problem, but like the selling point is a lot of the teams in the South are relatively close to a lot of these players, like where they live, because they're so like they're not far from each other. Like Tennessee and Alabama isn't far from one of those states. Mississippi, I think it is. So they're not like they're all pretty relatively close within a couple of hours. Yeah. So it's not like somebody Ohio State recruiting a guy from Texas.
Well, I think the South and like the schools in the South, because you could argue Kentucky and Tennessee are in the South, but I don't really think those, they do come down here and they do get guys. But I would say like Florida, for instance, Florida's a really hard, a really hard state to get into. But I wouldn't even say it's because of Florida or FSU or Miami. Well,
I think there's a lot of colleges in Florida too. So like FIU and like a lot of Florida schools, USF, Florida, Florida State, South Carolina's pretty hard to get into because they have Clemson and South Carolina. So it's just depending on the strength of schools in the state. Because a 4-star guy would probably rather go to somewhere in the state, for the most part, depending on the guy. But a lot of kids like to stay pretty close to home, near their families. So Texas has a lot of schools. A&M, if Texas Tech is good, it's probably going to be even harder to recruit in Texas come next year.
Well, Texas Tech's got a lot of cash flowing in right now. They just paid a left tackle $5 million to sign or whatever it was.
He hasn't even played his senior year of high school yet.
That was y'all's number one guy.
I mean, we got John Turntine, who was a couple spots below him, but
didn't y'all just get a quarterback? Like, wasn't one of these recruits like one of these 5-stars or a quarterback or something like that?
No, but
Diabell just upgraded from a 4-star to a 5-star.
Yeah, Diabell's been committed to us for like I think a year, 2 years maybe. He's Rajah Bell's son, the basketball player. But so yeah, we got James Johnson, 5-star defensive tackle out of flip from Georgia, and then you get a 5-star number 1 linebacker in the country, committing out of Georgia. And I'll say this: I feel like it's hard to get the top talent out of Georgia, like the upper, like a lot of those guys go to Georgia,
especially lately because they're good,
right? Especially on the defensive side of the ball.
I'll give you y'all's credit and say it is hard to flip commits from Georgia, from the state of Georgia. I will say that. I will also say I think y'all struck while the iron's hot. So
sure,
y'all kind of got in at the best possible time because kind of Georgia's on a decline. Not a decline, I wouldn't say a decline, but they have question marks surrounding the program, so nobody really knows what they're going to be next year. They could be more than likely probably still going to be a top SEC team, but there's a chance that they might not be as good as they were. So it's probably a little easier to pull those recruits from them, but at the end of the day, it's still difficult to do.
Sure. I think we're probably going to get. I can't remember. I think his name's. His name is yeah. Where is he from? I think he's from Florida. Yeah, like, and we're reaching into places like Florida, like Derek Cooper, a 5-star running back. What the fuck is going on? A composite 5-star running back, number 40 top 30, top 40 national running back who's been trending towards Texas for the last couple of weeks. So, and that's kind of wild because in years past, Texas has struggled in recruiting because we weren't able to go in states like Florida and Georgia and LSU and Mississippi and Louisiana and Mississippi and places like that. And now it's almost like we're more or less struggling and on the home front, in the state of Texas. And a lot of it's funny because like a couple of days before, Chase Calicut, a recruit from Texas, goes to Georgia. And now
last year we got Keelan Russell from Texas, and then y'all got somebody from Alabama.
Y'all got Xavier. I mean, Xavier Crowell is in Alabama, right?
Yeah, he's an Alabama guy.
Yeah. And then like last year, Texas goes into Georgia and gets the number one defensive tackle in Justice Terry. So like, there's constant shots across the bow from both sides. I saw something on Twitter yesterday, maybe the day before, where Texas and Georgia isn't in a rivalry stage yet by any means, but depending on how the next year or two go in terms of recruiting and how the games go, there's a very good chance that those two schools become like a created rivalry just because of the things out on the field, but also off the field. I think it's kind of like A&M and Alabama.
A&M and Alabama aren't. I wouldn't consider that
exactly, but that's my point. They're not really a rivalry, but it's a game that they both kind of get up for. It's a game that it's two teams that recruit against each other consistently, and you have guys on both teams that came from both areas.
I disagree on the Texas Georgia situation. I think a lot of that is recency bias for you guys, just because y'all lost to them last year. So
twice.
Y'all want that back.
We want to get back. We do want to get back.
But I wouldn't argue that it's going to be a budding rivalry or bubbling rivalry, just because, I mean, especially in the Southeastern, like SEC, everybody recruits from everybody. Everybody snags guys from everywhere. It's just it's weird because the upper echelon teams, like, it doesn't really matter if I'm a 5-star, and it doesn't matter if I go to Georgia or Alabama or Texas or LSU or one of those teams, because they're all equally as good on any given Saturday. So like, You're really not missing anything besides kind of the staff and like the uniform that you're playing for.
Sure.
I would argue they all have an equal shot at winning. So it's harder. I would say it's difficult, but whatever guy you get from Georgia, they can go into Texas and get. So it's not like, it's just weird. It's hard. It's weird and it's hard.
Do you think the competition in the SEC is going to be better this year than it was last year?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, I would think so. I think there's so many questions around so many teams. Now, granted, this is the first year, and I don't even know how long. I saw the number the other day, but I can't remember exactly, that every school in the SEC is bringing back their head coach from the year before. So no head coaches got fired, and everybody. So there's stability now in terms of coaches. Now there were some coordinator changes and stuff like that.
But I would argue that the average talent level for the SEC this year is better than it was last year, but the ceiling of talent in the SEC is lower than it was last year. I think everybody got a little bit better, and I think the teams that were really good probably got a little bit worse, but are still really good.
Maybe.
Like Georgia, I would argue Georgia, on paper, Georgia got worse.
Let me ask you this, Isaac. I have a question for you I thought about as I was walking in here earlier. I thought it was a good question.
Don't piss me off. I feel like you're about to piss me off.
Okay. Is Ty Simpson the...
Yes.
No, hold on. Is Ty Simpson the Quinn Ewers to Keelan Russell's Arch Manning?
No, I would not say that at all. Is Ty Simpson the Quinn Ewers to Keelan Russell's Arch Manning? No, I don't think so. I think, well, first off, we don't even know who the starting quarterback is going to be.
Well, we'll get into that because Kalen DeBoer had a comment on that.
I will say that Keelan Russell is looked at in a very different light than Ty Simpson is in terms of like fans of Alabama football. They're not looking at Ty Simpson and saying like you lock in or your job's gone. I mean, they are, but it wouldn't go to Keelan Russell.
It would go. You think it'd go to Austin Mack before it goes to Keelan Russell?
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's a mistake. If you were going to go to Austin Mack, you should have done that last year.
Well, I think I think we're in a good spot in that kind of scenario because realistically, all three of those guys have something that the other guy doesn't have.
Right.
And so I would argue probably the leash is going to be pretty short for the quarterbacks this year. So you might see Austin Mack start some games or Keelan Russell start some games. I don't see Keelan Russell starting this year.
How long do you think Ty Simpson's leash is?
About the Florida State game. Depending on how that game
really
goes.
That's not a very long leash.
I don't think anybody's earned a long leash in the quarterback room.
I remember the days when we didn't know who's going to start at quarterback for Texas.
If we go to Doak Campbell Stadium and we embarrass ourselves and we lose that game, I would be so surprised if Ty Simpson started another game for the rest of the year.
Really? So if y'all go out there, like, okay, but what kind of okay, okay. So if we're talking like let's say it's like 31-27. So he puts up 27 points, but the defense gives up 31.
Gone.
Really? Really?
Well,
You're not very high.
It depends
on Ty Simpson.
It depends on how the game plays out. I would have to see how he plays in that game. If he doesn't make a mistake, if he doesn't turn the ball over, if he's fairly accurate passing and did his job well, but say we couldn't run the ball and our defense couldn't stop them, I wouldn't really put that loss on Ty Simpson. But if Ty Simpson goes out there and it's a close game up until the fourth quarter and he throws 2 picks all game, yeah, he's probably gone. And I'd argue if it got to a point say we win in Florida State, say we're 5-0 going into week 5, and Georgia does what we did to them last year, and they're up a lot going into halftime. I don't think Ty Simpson's coming back out for the second half.
Really? So, okay. So let's say it's like 10-7 going into halftime. If it's y'all are up,
I would be willing to bet that there's a conversation had in the locker room that's like, all right, now you got one more chance. You got to go put up some points, or we're going to try something else out because this isn't working.
That's interesting. That is interesting.
And realistically, it's not more so. It's just the teams we're supposed to be that we have to worry about. If we lose to Georgia, fair enough, but we got to handle business against Vandy and OU.
Right.
The teams we're supposed to be.
You cannot lose to OU this year. You just can't. You cannot do it.
It's not
even because I would argue, or I kind of think that OU is a better team than they were last year, but you cannot lose to them 2 years in a row as Alabama.
Realistically, there's not a team on the schedule that we can lose to.
You can lose to Georgia.
No, you can't.
That's still Georgia. I mean, it's Logan. You got something?
South Carolina might be tough.
South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
You could lose to
the problem is you
Tennessee,
can't.
LSU back to back.
That puts no fear. That's almost to me like we're going to play Western Michigan and Central Michigan.
Okay. Let's calm down because Tennessee is definitely going to be worse than they were last year. I mean, we don't even unless Joey Aguilar all of a sudden is like the next coming of Peyton Manning or something in the Tennessee uniform.
I think everybody knows. Kalen DeBoer knows it. I know. I think the quarterbacks know it. I think the defense knows it. I think the entire team knows that everybody's on a really short leash this year. Kalen DeBoer cannot go. He's got to make the playoffs this year. If he doesn't, not saying me, but just the overall reaction from Alabama fans is going to be insane. And I would be willing. He has to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I think KDB has to, because they've like you said, they brought in. We had this discussion on the last show. You bring in an NFL coordinator who's been with Kalen DeBoer at Washington, Ryan Grubb. So there's continuity there of some sort. Plus, he's been in the league, And then you're talking about a team that still is Alabama. They still have probably a top 5 to 3 defense, top 3 to 5 defense.
Probably like top 3 to 1.
Let's just
better than Texas.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Easy. Yeah, easy.
Okay, listen. At least we're having a little bit. At least we're showing a little bit. You're showing a lot of bias right now, brother.
I'm not showing bias. I think Alabama has the number 1 defense in the SEC.
No.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I think Alabama's secondary is better. I think
our front seven. I think Texas's front seven is better.
Our linebackers are better.
No, sir. We have the no, sir.
I wouldn't even give y'all defensive
no, sir. Okay. Do you have the runner up for the butt kiss award on your linebacker room? No, you don't. I get it. You recruited well, you developed guys well, but let's not act like Texas doesn't have one of the top linebackers in the country, if not the top linebacker in the country. I think
if Alabama's the best defense, I think Texas is the second best defense.
Okay, fine. I'll give you that.
I'm not saying y'all are the worst. I just don't think y'all are better than Alabama.
We'll see, because I'm sure we'll see you in the playoffs.
We got to get there first. I'm not even worried about playoff. I'm not even worried about playoff talks right now. We just got to get there first.
You don't seem too confident in that, Bubba.
I'm extremely confident, but I was extremely confident last year also.
Yeah, but it was year 1, right? Under.
I do not care at all. I would say that the Ty Simpson, whoever starts at quarterback next year for Alabama, is under way less pressure than Jalen Milroe was last year. In terms of Kalen DeBoer has built an insane roster offensively around whatever quarterback starts this year. So they don't
agree
have
with that
as much as Jalen Milroe. And I would argue whatever anybody else has to say, I think the offensive efficiency will be much better this year than it was last year.
Well, I think you actually have a quarterback playing quarterback this year, and I think that's going to help out.
I think so too. And I think so that's why their leash is so short, because it would be really you'd have to be a really bad football player to fail in this offense at Alabama this year as a quarterback.
All right. Well, I think let's get into the. Now, it's obviously 30 minutes long, so we don't have to watch the entire thing, but I just wanted to get into it a little bit and see what Steve Sarkisian. I think we're going to get into Steve Sarkisian, Kalen DeBoer, and Mike Elko today. We'll try to get into those, maybe do about 15 minutes each or something like that. And then we'll kind of give our takes, maybe a little bit less depending on what we have to say about what they're saying. But are y'all cool with that? Yeah.
I guess
Logan's like, fuck you.
Cool. Logan's not cool with that at all.
Logan's like, I'm out.
He's bad.
All right. So let's see. Let me know if y'all can hear it whenever I play.
Yeah, play it first.
All righty. Welcome. It's always fitting being part of the Southeastern Conference now to be in Atlanta. This is where you always want to be. And I just want to say we appreciate all that you do in covering our sport. Ton of respect for the job that y'all have in celebrating our game. Probably where we've had the most.
Love it. I really loved it. When we going? We're not giving free ads to no damn body. Just wait for. I forgot. This is not on my regular account. All right. Oh. All right. Now we can go. Bang. Bang.
Probably where we've had the most turnover. We're going to need to do that again. I think championships are won on the defensive side of the ball, and we've got a defensive football team that we're very excited about. From a special teams perspective, the one thing I love is that we've got all seniors. I've got a senior long snapper, a senior.
Listen, before he gets started talking about special teams, all I'm saying is maybe if we can make a freaking field goal, we'll be a little bit better. I'll feel a little bit better about that. We bring in a punter.
No joke.
And bring in
Who
the
even
punter.
is our kicker?
Mason Shipley from
Texas State.
Yeah.
Nice.
You know about him. You ever is he good? You went to the games?
Barely. I went to the games.
You were not in an inebriated state, probably.
Yeah.
No, especially what you doing during kicks? Not paying attention to the kicks.
Nah, I just looked at the scoreboard, made sure he went in.
Made sure it went in. Did it go in? Yeah.
No, but he was decent. It's going to be interesting to see what he's like on a bigger stage.
That sounds like he's butt. That sounds like you just made it sound like he was some butt. You made it sound like he was some butt.
I mean,
goodness gracious.
He's not a.
He's definitely some butt.
Older, senior punter, senior kicker, senior kickoff guy. And so the experiences that they've had and what they've been through, I think is going to serve us well as the season goes on. So we're excited about that unit. And then obviously offensively is probably where we've had the most turnover. We've got a new quarterback, Arch Manning, if you didn't know. He's replacing Quinn, who had a great 3 years for us. But we're replacing a lot of offensive linemen. We're replacing receivers, tight ends. But that unit is really good. We're returning the leading rusher in the SEC and Trey Wisner, which some of you
who's probably not even going to start next year.
You probably don't even know that, but bring that to your attention. We get Cedric Baxter back with the addition of Jarrett Gibson, who played a ton as a true freshman for us, along with Christian Clark in that room. The receiving core is one we're really excited about. We've had receivers drafted in the first round in the last 2 years draft, but this group is really good. DeAndre Moore is kind of the leader of that group, who played a ton for us last year in the slot. Ryan Wingo was a true freshman last year, who probably in a lot of other schools probably had more opportunities. But when you had the room we had.
See, so when he's talking about Ryan Wingo right there, it seems like he's trying to get people to understand that you made some lasagna.
I wasn't going to interrupt Steve. I was going to let the man talk.
Is Logan eating lasagna?
For dinner.
He texted me saying,
I made a frozen lasagna, so I might have to bounce in a bit.
Anyways, so it feels like he's trying to get people to recognize exactly the type of player that Ryan Wingo was, or could have been had he could have been a Cam Smith, right, at Auburn, or a Ryan Wingo at Alabama had he went to a school, or I'm missing the big one. What did I say? Ryan Wingo?
You said Ryan Wingo.
I meant Ryan Williams, yeah. And then the Jeremiah, there we go, Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State. Those three were kind of the bigger names. And had he went to a school where he could have been the number one guy right off the bat, I think you're talking about a guy that could have maybe been up there with those guys. Maybe not had the exact same numbers. I'm not saying he's better than those guys or anything like that, but I think he's definitely a guy that could have been, had he gotten the opportunity to be the number one guy. I think he could have put up some numbers like those guys, and I think he's probably right. Logan, what do you got?
Nothing. I mean, Brian Wingo is a stud. I think now that he is the number one guy, he will have those numbers. He will put up those numbers, and he's a freak athlete, dude. So fast. Yeah,
him and DeAndre Moore. Now, admittedly, I think to go more to Isaac's side of the field, I think Alabama does have a better receiver room than Texas. I don't think there's any argument there. You do got Emmett Mosley at Texas, who was on pace to be an All-American freshman All-American wide receiver. So you do have a lot of talent in that room. But it's a lot of unproven commodities outside of DeAndre Moore.
Not a whole lot of continuity in that room.
Yeah. You don't have an Xavier Worthy type of dude who's been there, who was a 3-year starter and was like the guy since he came on campus. So that's definitely a question mark for me, is how well does this wide receiver room hold it together and give Arch Manning, guys that can catch the ball, because that's really going to be the biggest thing with Arch, in my opinion, is he going to have guys that are able to catch the ball? Because if they're not catching the ball or not getting open, it's going to make Arch look bad, and then we're going to be sitting here talking about, is Arch even that good? Which is going to be a talk anyway whenever he throws a pick or 2 picks or struggles like he did in the Georgia game, which I think we all expect to happen to some degree.
Well, he kind of just got thrown in the fire in that game.
Yeah, I think that was not the greatest move, but we were trying to get something happening, but that's a discussion for another day. Let's see what else he's got to say.
You know, he was very efficient, had a bunch of catches in critical moments for us. We're excited about him. We brought in Emmett Mosley, a transfer from Stanford, who had 50 catches there as a true freshman at Stanford, who we're excited about, to go along with a really good recruiting class and a group of young guys, Parker Livingstone leading that charge of younger players in that room. And then at tight end, we lost a really good player in Gunnar Helm. We brought in Jack Endries from Cal, who was a great player there, with an uptick of young players, Jordan Washington, Spencer Shannon, to go along with Amari Winston and Nick Townsend. We're excited.
You know, when he keeps going down through the list of these guys and stuff, and I know I keep pausing it a lot. I'll let him speak, but this kind of goes to what we were talking about the other day, Isaac, about why I think that a lot of these recruits are struggling to come to Texas right now in terms of
they won't get playtime.
Right. The roster is just so like we're probably 3 deep at every position he's named so far, outside of receiver, because you have to have 3 or 4 on the field at all times. But at tight end, I mean, at least 2 deep at every receiver position. At least 3.
That's a problem for any top school like Ohio State or Georgia or Alabama or Texas or any top school.
What I think is different about Texas is as much as us fans believe in what we've seen so far, I think recruits don't necessarily believe in it 100% yet, because we haven't really gotten. Congratulations, you made the playoffs 2 years in a row. Congratulations, you beat Alabama and Saban's last year. That didn't really mean anything to this year. That doesn't really mean anything anymore. You know, congratulations, you went into Michigan. Michigan sucks. You know, so like for every argument a Texas fan has, there's an equal and opposite argument for why it doesn't matter. And so until things are consistent, until we get the big one, I think players don't really have a reason to want to sit the bench. They're like, oh, so what? I'm going to sit the bench and not really get anything out of it.
I think what you're seeing now with like Texas, and they're doing a good job of recruiting. So, but I will say their recruiting pitch has to be a little bit different than anybody else's. Like Alabama can rely on like tenure and history. Like we've had the most guys drafted in the NFL, and Georgia can be like, well, you know, I was Nick Saban's predecessor. Like, yeah, we almost 3-peated. We've also had a ton of guys in the NFL. Texas being on the come up like this is like they don't like historically. Yeah, Texas has been like a blue blood team, but they went through a lull or a stint of however many years of not being a great football team.
Right.
So like they can't offer that kind of security to new recruits.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, we might not have gotten it this year, but history shows we'll always be within punching distance of being there, because it doesn't show that. But I think if you're an optimistic recruit and you look at a team like Texas, young, talented, like kind of on the up, I can see where you'd want to. But also, Texas makes up for that in like kind of like money. They got a lot of money to throw around, so, and that's kind of what talks nowadays. So
money talks. You know what walks. All right, let's see.
I'm out of here.
That group. On the offensive line,
you out of here?
Yeah, I'm out of here. Gotta
go. All right, later. Peace. Bye.
Go get that Zanzan.
All right.
Replacing 4 starters. DJ Campbell being the one coming back, but Cole Hudson's played a ton of football for us. We found out a lot about Trevor Gooseby last year. He played in some big time games against some big time fronts. We're excited about him. But the beauty of when you have that group the way that we had it for the last few years, we had a chance to develop offensive linemen. And that's one thing that you really love to do, is develop those players throughout their time and not throw them into the fire. So we're really excited about that group and what they can do. Now their continuity and the quicker they can gel and grow together is going to be critical. From a staff perspective, I think one of the keys for us is staff continuity.
I was just about to, we were glad you brought that up. I was just about to say that. I think we're on what, 4 years now where everybody outside of the running back and the DB room, there's a lot of continuity within the staff. The main positions of offensive coordinator, aka Kyle Flood, the offensive line coach, Steve Sarkisian, and Pete Kwiatkowski. That's being on the same team for so long is not something you see a whole lot of anymore in this day and age of college football. And I think that is another thing that'll really bode well this year when you're talking about what you're like you just mentioned, you're bringing in, an entire new offensive line, and that's a big question mark because you had 4 offensive linemen graduate to get drafted. Kelvin Banks being the best offensive lineman in college football last year. Mm-hmm. So he also mentioned the development of everything. And I think the development of those guys is what's going to, really be able to take away or not lessen lessen the pain or hurt of losing those guys because they were on the same team.
I think a team like Texas now has shown that they can develop players. Right. So the question marks that y'all have about reloading, I don't think it's specific to Texas. I think it's just a general kind of every college has
which is different. Right. Which is different from where we've been in years past, where it was like, can they even it's not because you had Sam Ehlinger and now you go from Sam Ehlinger to Quinn or Sam Ehlinger to I'm forgetting his name. Can't remember it right now off the top of my head. But there was always a continuity question of who are they gonna bring in to fill this spot because they can't trust the guy that they have behind him because are they even developing players? Now that's not really a question mark, but it's more of like a broad, natural question for any team, like a Georgia. Georgia has those questions too this year, and they're still Georgia,
And I'll say this, especially for like Texas, I will say they're following the same kind of route that Georgia followed when Kirby Smart first got hired, where not following the same route, but they have a lot of similar. Like the timeline is similar. When Kirby first got to Georgia, it was like, he was always so close to getting there, right. Like made the playoffs, kind of, but never really
couldn't beat Saban.
And everybody was like, okay, well maybe I don't think the same question applies to Steve Sarkisian, but I will say like Kirby Smart did have those question marks around him as a coach. Like, can he get over that hump?
Right.
And he went out and rattled off like 2 national championships. So. And then built a dynasty from there. And I think y'all are following that same timeline. Y'all are just so young right now in terms of how that is being built. And I think y'all got a good thing going. So it takes, 2 generations pretty much. You got to have your first-year guys under that system that are good. That's the Quinn Ewers. Then you got your second-year guys. That's your
Arch Manning.
And maybe Arch Manning doesn't get it done for you. What's he got, 2 or 3 years left? Maybe he doesn't.
He's got at least 2. The reportedly, apparently, is that he's going to at least stay for 2.
And I would argue like Texas really only has been around for 4 years ish. 2 under Quinn. Now you got 2 under, or you're going to have 2 under Arch. And that's still not that that's not that long. So if y'all don't get it done within these next 2 years, it's not like. That doesn't mean, okay, we're screwed. Right. It just means y'all are still probably building to get – right. Because there's so much experience that goes into building a dynasty like that.
Right. And I think that kind of goes into once a lot of these people, recruits and stuff, see the consistency.
Well, and you can kind of blame Nick Saban for something like that because none of these guys are Nick Saban, but he came into Alabama in 2007 and won his first championship in I think 2009.
Right.
And then
I think
after that, it was like every other year he was winning one. So a lot of people see something like that and are like, okay, so that's what we have to do.
Yeah. So why aren't you doing that? It's like, man, am I Nick Saban over here, man?
And it's not that.
Yeah.
So I think Texas is on pace to be a big headache.
I agree.
We've had turnover at position coaches, but we've had the same offensive coordinator, the same defensive coordinator, same special teams coordinator, and same head coach now for 5 straight years.
There we go, 5 years.
I think has been big for us because we know our schedule is going to be really challenging. We've got road games at Ohio State, at Georgia, at Florida, at Kentucky.
At TSTC,
okay, pause this.
If you don't receive a job offer with it.
Ain't no fucking way he slipped Kentucky.
He just slipped Kentucky.
There's no way he just slipped Kentucky in there.
He was like, I gotta throw one more in there. I'm gonna see if y'all catch it.
He said, Kentucky? Is that what we're talking about? Kentucky? That's insane. I will say, it is interesting because y'all schedule this year is harder than last year.
Right.
And I think y'all's ceiling is a little bit higher than it was last year in terms of maybe not because we don't really
I think our schedule is really only harder because of Ohio State.
I mean, that's a big game.
I agree. I think Ohio State is this year what we were hoping and what we thought Michigan was going to be last year.
Sure. But I will say, a lot of Texas fans, I think, see this Arch Manning switch because that is the storyline is Arch Manning.
Right.
They see this Arch Manning switch from Quinn Ewers to Arch Manning, and they're saying, we got our guy. Like, this is our guy. He's going to take us to – Arch Manning is the damn golden goose for Texas football. He's going to take y'all to where y'all need to go. But I will say, I think that's a lot of optimism talking. I think y'all are trending up, and everybody's real excited in Austin that – to see what y'all become these past couple of years, and now I got this big name in Arch Manning, and you're like,
I think it's a collection of things. I think it's a collection. Well, it is. I agree there. I think it's a collection of things. I think it's like you said, we were in the doldrums for so long, and now it's like we got regardless of what you think of how the games played out or how we got that they were so close. They were really, really close.
I want to say something about this specific Texas football team that kind of might rub you the wrong way, depending on how you look at it. But they remind me a lot of the James Harden Rockets. In the sense of they're really good. They might be able to do it. But I think all the other teams are also really good. Y'all are getting hot
at the wrong time almost.
Yeah.
Well, I would argue if we got hot, if we would have got hot, in any of those in that 10-year period, we would have just ran into Saban.
Sure. Yeah. But I think, Georgia's being doubted a lot, and Kirby Smart kind of history proves that he loves shit like that. And, Ohio State's kind of getting hot again, or they just came off a national championship. They got over the hump. So maybe they got something going on over there. Maybe they cracked the code, so they might be back. Michigan's getting hot again. Alabama's getting hot again. And then that's just the top teams. Now you got all these other guys like Florida, South Carolina, Oklahoma, A&M.
Outside of the SEC, Penn
State, Notre Dame. Like the average talent level and goodness scale of every team
is way higher. Yeah. The floor of college football is way higher than it was when Saban was coaching.
That opens up a back door. Okay, maybe y'all go out there and beat Ohio State and Georgia.
Right.
But what if y'all drop one to Florida and OU? Then you're like, shit.
What even are we?
Yeah, we did what we were supposed to do, but we kind of might have overlooked these guys. So
we run into a Notre Dame in the playoff, or we run into a Penn State in the playoff. We weren't even expecting, Then at that point, it's like, God damn it, man, we were so close again. We just ran into that team.
Yep.
Like if we just didn't run into that team, whatever that team is.
And I don't think that's a Texas specific thing.
I don't either. No.
The Rockets situation. It reminds me a lot like because James Harden was our boy. He was supposed to take us there. Arch Manning,
Yeah. And then you got
around him.
The roster around Arch Manning on the offensive side of the ball. You could argue has a lot of question marks. The offensive side of the ball with James Harden had a lot of question marks. All it takes is one game of missing 27 straight 3-pointers, and all of a sudden James Harden isn't worth the shit anyway.
All it takes is one bad playoff game for Arch Manning, and there it goes.
All it takes is one game where he throws 3 or 4 picks, and you're like, what is this?
And not even one game. All it takes is one play. If y'all get into a shootout against a really good team, and then Ryan Wingo, inexperienced receiver, might be a stud, ball slips through his hands, picked. Right. Or like what happened last year in the Ohio State game, I think it was fumbled on like the 10-yard line. Ran
it back for a touchdown. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can move on from Texas. I know we spent a little bit more time on that than you probably wanted to. So we'll go ahead and get into your boy Kalen DeBoer and see what he has.
We can skip Kalen DeBoer. We can go to, or we can watch Kalen DeBoer. I don't really care. I watched his earlier today, and he didn't really say anything too interesting.
No. Well, I'd be interested to see what he has to say. Maybe I have some takes.
Okay, let's see. They got his shit right.
Yeah, they got his.
Greg, thanks for the introduction. You're doing your research on where I've been here the last couple of weeks. So it is great to be here. And first of all, just in regards to Greg, I appreciate his leadership. Year 2, you understand a little bit more of what everyone does and how well they do it. What Greg Sankey does for the SEC, for college athletics, it's on an extremely high level.
I think he talks about Greg Sankey and all that, and then he talks about one of the players kind of being like having a good.
They can count on him to be doing the work.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's get into this familiarity.
Especially even going back to a year ago on what it might look like with the evolving and the evolution of what college athletics looks like today. Second season, familiarity has been a word that's been used a lot already this morning with different interviews. That's great. It helps you feel good about where your families live in and what those routines are. That's important to me and our success. You got to have that piece in place. Familiarity with it, and I think the common word also would be continuity. Starts with our coaching staff. Really, one change on the defensive side of the ball, and then the addition of Ryan Grubb on the offensive side. Everyone else, not just the position coaches, but quality control coaches, graduate assistants, recruiting staff, strength and conditioning, training room. We really had no turnover in all those areas. And so that's exciting to me because I think that says a lot about the belief and the excitement of what lies ahead. And that you have the right people. You talk about getting the right people on the bus, the right people in your program and inside the building, and I feel like we certainly have that. So continuity is a huge piece of kind of what year 2 is all about right now. That trickles down to your players. The leadership from the staff is there, but really the culture that we want to try to exude, try to have, it comes to life through our players.
All the interesting stuff is kind of in question.
It's the day to day, and as we speak right now, they're on the field, in a nice warm.
I don't want to skip too much and miss it.
Getting after it, and I can't tell you how impressed I've been with them just focusing on the main thing, and that's the work. Not getting ahead of themselves, not even worried. And I think really when it comes down to where do you want to improve, where do you need to get better, it's reps. All of us get better at our jobs by taking more reps. Myself as a head coach at this place here at Alabama, you guys in your roles, our players, and then it's reps together. And so again, familiarity, continuity, repetitions. We got to be better in the big moments. We lost some close games last year, and we had chances, maybe not even in the fourth quarter, but we had chances earlier in the game to separate ourselves or make a play here or there. And
pause it right here.
Whether it was the.
I think that was a shot at Jalen Milroe.
Oh, really? You think he's?
I think he threw a little sneak diss in right there because Jalen Milroe, a common theme for him last year was and you notice he specifically called out the fact that we lost a lot of close games, but it wasn't necessarily in the fourth quarter, right?
Right.
That's because Jalen Milroe, historically, last year when he started off really rough, we lost that game, which is kind of like a telltale. So we didn't really come back and win a game last year. We started bad against Vanderbilt. We started bad against Oklahoma.
Yeah.
We started bad against Michigan, really bad against Michigan. I think it was Tennessee that beat us also. We started bad against them too. So, like, I think you can look a little deeper into that and pull something out of there that he didn't say because he does a lot of coach speak bullshit. It's really annoying.
You just
very
say
much
what you need to say.
He's very much like D'Amico Ryans.
Oh my
so I
God.
think to pull out of that, you can kind of. I think he's expecting to clean that up a little bit.
I wonder. Oh, that and unranked losses part at the end. You want to get to that?
Yeah, he also had a question. Somebody asked him a question about. So we can skip to that. He got asked a question about do you think that do you think you performed up to Bama's standards last year? And I think he said something like, I forgot what he said, but it was something like, some more coach talk bullshit. But it was like, I forgot exactly what it was. I'm drawing a blank. I hope you can find it. Maybe you can find it.
It's probably, let's see.
Belief or whether it was the confidence. A lot of that just comes through repetitions. And so we've really had a great offseason, understanding where we fell short, why we fell short, not just the what and the how, but the why. And I'm excited about our guys, taking those next steps, understanding when we get in those moments this year, those critical times, how to come through and make the play that's necessary to go win football games. We were undefeated at home, but we also struggled on the road. And we start this year on the road and go to Florida State.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that they struggled so much on the road?
Well, he says we struggled on the road, but and we did. But it's just weird to me that was like a talking point for him because I would argue the games we lost on the road, there was games we won on the road that were harder than games that we lost on the road. We went into Baton Rouge at night and dog walked LSU, but then we couldn't go out. We lost to Vanderbilt at home.
Right.
And I'd argue that's not the same. So I don't think it really has anything to do with being home in a way. I do think being home plays a factor in why we went undefeated, just because Tuscaloosa gets so loud and it's such a hostile environment.
Sure.
But on the road, I think, man, I just think we were just unmotivated. I think would be the answer to that.
Interesting.
And we know that they're going to have something to prove as well. And so that's going to be, a great environment to get tested early on. And so, we don't need to look anything beyond that as far as our preparation or what might lie, because none of it matters unless we take care of business and do what we're doing, being our best in that week 1 game against Florida State. But being on the road and playing better on the road is certainly got to be a point that happens, this year in our football program. Defensively, a lot of returners coming back. We excelled when it came to taking the football away. I think we're in the top 4 or 5 in the country there. Really, the most takeaways that I think 28 was the number in the program going back 7-8 years ago. And when it came to yards per play and all that, it's all great stuff. But the key for our defense is get off the football field. And as the season went along, we did a better job of that early on. There were some times where we could have been better. And those led to games that came close. Those led to games that we maybe fell short offensively. I think it's just consistency. It's consistency in all areas. We want to have
another shot.
The ability to be balanced.
another shot at your boy.
I think that's I don't think it's a shot, but I think he's kind of answering the question or the the conspiracy that a lot of Alabama fans had, and a lot of probably national media had, was just like everybody knew Jalen Milroe was the best athlete on the field at any given point in time.
Right.
It's just how good was he going to be that day? And everybody knew he was very inconsistent as a quarterback. And like, yeah, it's a team sport and da-da-da-da-da. But Jalen Milroe, man, you're only as good as your quarterback. That's all I'm going to say.
Right. Oh, wrong one.
I mean, it doesn't mean that the statistics look equal when the game's over or the season's done, but the ability to run the football when someone's taking the pass game and vice versa, when the opposite happens. So I think, more and more pieces coming together, the development of players at all positions. I'm excited about what we have there. An offensive line is where it really starts, really 6 guys that are strongly in the rotation with a lot of others that are up and coming and developing quickly, that I could see, competing for spots as the season goes along as well.
So do you think 9.6, like, basically they're saying like the over under for wins next year is 9.5. That seems kind of disrespectful.
2 years ago I'd agree. 1 year ago I'd agree. But I think Alabama fans have been served a bit of humble pie last year. And so, at least for me, I'm super high on us. I do think that's really low. I think our projected win should be like over under 11.
Really? I mean, okay.
Yeah, over under 11. But honestly, I say that now, but based off last year, bro, I can see a world where Alabama wins 9. I think under 9 games is kind of crazy. I think it should be set at 10. I don't think
10 is probably where I would go.
Yeah, I don't think we drop. We're better than we were last year. We're probably going to be a little more consistent than we were last year. I don't see us losing one more game in the regular season than we did.
think the problem. I think what people struggle with is you don't have a Bryce Young, you don't have a Tua Tagovailoa, you don't have a Jalen Hurts, you don't have a
we didn't have
guys.
We didn't have that either in 2020 when we went and won the national championship with Mac Jones. Matter of fact,
I mean, okay, but okay, Mac Jones was more of an outlier than anything.
Really, is he?
I mean, I mean, you had one, but the team around Mac Jones was more proven than the team around Ty Simpson.
I disagree. I mean, I think talent-wise at all levels, yeah.
On paper, yes, I would. On paper, I would say that this year's Alabama team does look good on paper. There's no denying that.
Let me give you a little history. Can I give you a little history?
Hit me with some Alabama history that I'm going to forget as soon as we get off this podcast.
Okay, how about this? Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Bryce Young never won a national championship at Alabama.
This is true.
Okay. We had guys like Jalen Milroe who didn't win one. Freak athlete. We had guys like Jalen Hurts who technically won one, but wasn't the reason why. We had guys like Tua Tagovailoa, and he did win us that one. And would you say Ty Simpson resembles any of those guys? Probably not really, right?
Probably not necessarily, no.
Does Ty Simpson kind of resemble someone like, I don't know, maybe like a Mac Jones or a AJ McCarron? Or
probably, yeah. He's probably, yeah.
So probably the two most winningest, well, not winningest,
but I'm not saying
hold on, let me give you another similarity. Okay. Who did Mac Jones have? Devontae Smith.
Right.
Who did AJ McCarron have? Julio Jones.
Who does
Ty Simpson have?
Ryan Williams. Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
Okay, no, I hear you. That's what I'm saying. On paper, I agree with you, but I think there's more of a question mark because are they going to be as good as those teams were?
I think this Alabama team.
It's all revisionist history, in my opinion, because
I think this Alabama team on paper. I was gonna say something crazy right now, but I'm not going to because
Don't you dare say what I think you're about to say.
I want to remain humble. But I will say this team has the ability to surprise a ton of people.
Maybe you're right.
When it comes to overall as a program, physicality is the name of the game. When it comes to playing football, you wear the pads for a reason, right? And so physicality, that comes through the work to build your body. But that also comes through, toughness mentally as well. So I love, again, the work is what we're focused on right now. The main thing, keeping it that. I love the mindset.
You remind me so much of fucking
doesn't guarantee you anything, but it gives you a great
Coach
chance.
speak out the ass.
Excited about 2 weeks from today. At this very moment, I think we'll be on the football field practicing practice one. So it's come on fast. Media days usually represents that type of kickoff, and so I'm excited to get the ball rolling. So I'm opening it for questions.
Here we go.
Thank you, Coach DeBoer. If you have a question, raise your hand. We have Gianna, Nathan, and Drayden. We'll go ahead and come on up. We'll start right here in the center aisle. Barry.
Oh my God.
Okay, pause it. We're not doing it. I'm not doing it. Just go ahead and back it up. Pick it up. I will say this. Just back on mine. He did say he got asked a question about Ty Simpson and kind of the starting quarterback situation. He said if we were to start a game, if we were to play a game tomorrow, Ty Simpson would be the guy. But he also said we're charting everything. Every throw, every pass, every drop back,
Barry Trample, Tulsa World. 2 decades the SEC dominated, built a great brand, winning national titles. Now the Big Ten's won 2 in a row. How important is it for the SEC, maybe Alabama, maybe somebody else, to stop that streak and get the SEC going again?
Yeah, I think individually in our own programs, that's our responsibility to be to be at the top. Right, that's the expectation. I know at Alabama, but also the expectation for the SEC as a whole. I still feel that the SEC, top to bottom, is as strong as you'll find. And, we experienced that last year. You had games where you showed what your ceiling was, but you also had to back it up and play the next week against again. And it showed that every team in the league can win on every given Saturday. So, we want to prove ourselves as a program, but also as a league as well.
Coach will go right in front of me, about 3 rows back, the section to your left.
Coach Joe Gaither of BamaCentral.com. On Monday, Greg Sankey opened up talking about 8 or 9 game conference schedule. Alabama has a lot of great home and homes going out into the next decade. What's your perspective on future SEC schedules?
Yeah,
what's your perspective on that?
If we should add another game?
Yeah. Because Kirby Smart had an interesting. It didn't even cross my mind to think about it the way he put it. But
what did he say?
He said something along the lines of, we don't want to add 4 more losses, or we don't want to add, 16 more losses to our conference, which is essentially what you're doing if you add.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, actually. Yeah, that makes sense.
So, if you now, granted, I guess you're adding also 16 more wins because
I'll say this.
Or 8, it'd be 8 more losses, I guess.
I think the SEC is already so hard, and it already eats itself alive, that adding another SEC game is kind of counterproductive, in my opinion.
Right.
And if realistically, we shouldn't be talking about adding another SEC game. I think we should be talking about, first off, being able to revise your schedules, your future schedules, the schedules that are already in place. And teams in the SEC don't need to play Fort Campbell University. So be able to edit that out and play a tougher non-con game.
I think there should be a cutoff of when you can have your non-cons. So after November 1st, you can't have Western Kentucky of the School of Computer Scientists. You can't have them after a certain point of the season.
Yeah.
So I think that would also there's no reason an SEC team should basically have a bye week with the second to last game of the season. Essentially is what that is, just to give them a win.
I don't really think that matters as much, just because
I think it would help. I think it would help.
Yeah, but either way, you're either front loading or back loading your schedule.
But it would also change the picture because it would say what happened. It would save us from what happened last year, where teams sometimes they lose early on in the year. It just happens. So when you have a big game in week 2 or week 1, like Texas has, like Texas goes and loses against Ohio State, they're going to have to fight and claw and scratch and claw just to even get back into the discussion because of a week 1 loss.
I disagree. Because we saw it with Notre Dame last year losing to fucking Northern Illinois or something like that. That game was forgotten.
But Notre Dame is also they don't have a con. They don't have a conference.
But I'll say, Texas losing to Ohio State, I don't think will have the repercussions that you think it will have if they lose that game. I think, say Texas is ranked number 1 going into the season next year, lose to Ohio State, they drop down to like 8. I think you're thinking of it like they drop down into the teens, which I don't even think they make it. I don't even think they drop down past the top 10 if they lose that game.
Sure. But my point being is there's also teams that beat teams early on in the year that shouldn't.
And I'll also say, okay, so what's better? You guys playing Ohio State week 1 and then having bye weeks the next 2 weeks in case y'all lose that game? Or
I'm saying I would rather if you're going to do that, if you're going to have, but Texas is different because we don't have a week 11 or week 12 game against Missouri State or something like that. Ours after we play Ohio State, we just roll. Like we have the 2 weeks of bye, basically bye, and then you roll right into the SEC schedule. So like it's not like we're playing easy teams at the front half like we are. With Sam Houston State and the other one I'm drawing a blank on right now. But ultimately, I'm against Texas playing. I would if I were Chris Conte, I would literally call Ohio State and cancel it right now, and have a schedule because there's no reason for us to play Ohio State week 1. It doesn't benefit us at all.
If y'all beat Ohio State, y'all get to coast.
If we beat
5 weeks of the season,
we beat Ohio State, yeah.
But so does Ohio State. Alabama has to go out there and play Florida State, which, to be fair, when we scheduled that game, was on track to be pretty much where Ohio State was. They were supposed to be a really good team this year. Whenever we scheduled them, however many years ago, So we schedule them, then we play. I forget who, but couple SEC teams, and then Georgia, and then I would argue those our middle of our schedule is pretty tough. We go through Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, someone else that I forget, Mizzou. All those guys are in the middle of our season. So yeah, should we not? But okay, but that us losing those games has the same effect as y'all losing, your Ohio State game week 1. Or I'd say the closer to the end of the season you lose games, the more it affects your team.
Exactly, which is why you shouldn't have a week 12 game versus Missouri State, which is why if you're getting at that point, what are we really doing? Why are we scared?
I disagree because, us losing to OU in week 8 isn't that much different from us losing to OU in week 10.
That's not what I'm saying.
What are you saying?
I'm saying I'm not talking about OU. I'm talking about having because Alabama was notorious for this. Was notorious for having a cakewalk right before they go into the SEC championship. It was the end of their season. They would have this random nobody, a scrimmage, and then they'd play one more SEC team, and then they'd go into the SEC championship. They basically were just resting their starters, not playing anybody, playing for the first half, being up 38-0, and then going right into the SEC championship game, and then going to play for a national championship.
What's the difference between that and somebody playing, the first 3 weeks of the schedule or 2 weeks of the schedule being easy wins?
That's what that's the first 3 weeks. That's what they're supposed to be.
Why though? Why does it matter?
Because why does it need to be especially in this conference? Why does it need to be at the back half? Why can't,
if you run through a gauntlet to start your season, do you not deserve a little bit of a break come the back half of the season?
No, man. No.
I disagree.
Well, we agree to disagree.
I guess so.
All right. Well, I'm in this. I ain't got no AC or fan in here.
It's hot in here.
I'm
good. If you're good.
You're good. Yeah, I think I'm good. I think maybe we'll probably have to go again soon in the next couple of days before to kind of fully flesh this stuff out.
Is there more SEC Media Day stuff going on?
Yeah. We'll kind of go through schools, and maybe we'll maybe that's what we'll do a little. Yeah, we'll talk about it. All right. Well, I guess if you have nothing left to say, well, if you see this later on, like, comment, subscribe, let us know what you think. We will we'll see you guys later.
I with the beefing on the net. Tell me what's next. Tell me what's next. I can't listen to the hype. Wanna know that you've been mixed with lies. Love it like your favorite cocktail.